Hello, today I'm looking at the Majjhima number 115, 115, and this one's entitled the Bahudatukkha Sutta, and that's translated as the many kinds of elements. Now the location is Savatthi in Jetta's Grove at Anathapindika's Park, and the people mentioned are Buddha, or the Blessed One, and his followers, or bhikkhus or monks, and by name Venerable Ananda, who's one of Buddha's leading followers. Now the sutta starts with a long description of the difference between a wise man and a stupid man, or the word used, a fool. When fears arise, it is because of a stupid man, not a wise man. When calamities arise, it is because of a stupid man, not a wise man. Thus, the stupid man brings fear. The wise man brings no fear. The stupid man brings trouble. The wise man brings no trouble. The stupid man brings calamity. The wise man brings no calamity. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train thus. We shall be wise men. We shall be enquirers. And Venerable Ananda then asks of Buddha, in what way can a bhikkhu be called a wise man and an enquirer? Buddha replies, a bhikkhu can be called a wise man when he is skilled in the elements, skilled in the bases, skilled in dependent origination, skilled in what is possible and what is impossible. Upon prompting, Buddha goes on to explain each of these skills. The elements. Buddha starts by describing the 18 elements associated with the senses. Summarizing, there are 3 parts associated with each sense organ. There is the object perceived, the sense organ that detects it, the sense organ that interprets it, described thus as follows. There is the nose element, the odor element, and the nose conscious element. So that's the 3 associated with each of the senses. So this is then repeated for each of the sense organs. So the ear for sound, the eye for forms, the body for touch, the tongue for taste, and the mind for thought. The 18 elements. When a bhikkhu knows and sees these 18 elements, a bhikkhu can be called skilled in these elements. Ananda then asks, is there another way a bhikkhu might be skilled in the elements? And Buddha replies, there are also the following elements: earth, water, fire, air, space, consciousness. A bhikkhu knows and sees these 6 elements. A bhikkhu can be called skilled in these elements. When a bhikkhu knows and sees these 6 elements, a bhikkhu can be called skilled in the elements. And is there another way? Ananda asks. Buddha replies, there are 6 other elements, the elements of pleasure, pain, joy, grief, equanimity, and ignorance. When a bhikkhu knows and sees these 6 elements, a bhikkhu can be called skilled in the element. And then further, another way, asked Ananda. There are these 6 elements, Buddha replies, the sensual desire element, the renunciation element, the ill will element, the non-ill will element, the cruelty element, and the non-cruelty element. So I've sort of summarized those as being the personal dispositions. And Buddha says, when a bhikkhu knows and sees these 6 elements, a bhikkhu can be called skilled in the elements. And is there another way? Asks Ananda. There might be, replies Buddha. there are these three elements. The sense sphere element, so I've understood that to mean what we perceive, touch, see, smell, etc. There's the fine material element, and I understand that to be the conditioned experience during the beginning of the meditation or jhana steps. And there's also the immaterial element, and I understand that to be the condition experienced during the higher jhanas or the meditation steps. For example, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. So that's the immaterial elements. And Buddha says, when a bhikkhu knows and sees these three elements, he can be called skilled in the elements. And is there another way? Asked Ananda. There might be, replies Buddha. There are these two. The conditioned element, I interpret that as being what's understood by the five aggregates. And there's the unconditioned element, or nibbana, which is, so the first one is what we experience, and the second one is pure clarity. When a bhikkhu knows and sees these two elements, a bhikkhu can be called skilled in the elements. Ananda then asks, in what way can a bhikkhu be called skilled in the bases? So the bases spelled B-A-S-E-S, bases. Buddha replies, there are 6 internal and 6 external bases. The eye and forms, the ear and sounds, the nose and odours, the tongues and flavours, the body and tangibles, the mind and mind objects. So that's the 6 internal and 6 external bases. When the bhikkhu knows and sees these 6 internal and external bases, a bhikkhu can be called skilled in the bases. And the next question from Ananda is, in what way can a bhikkhu be called skilled in dependent origination? Here, Ananda, a bhikkhu knows thus. Now this paragraph, I'll read verbatim because I don't think it can be summarized. So it goes as follows. Here, Ananda, a bhikkhu knows thus. When this exists, that comes to be. When the arising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the cessation of this, that ceases. So that's dependent origination. That is, with ignorance as condition, formations come to be. With formations as condition, consciousness. With consciousness as condition, mental materiality. With mental materiality as condition, the sixfold base. With the sixfold base as condition, contact. With contact as condition, feeling. With feeling as condition, craving. With craving as condition, clinging. With clinging as condition, being. With being as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. So that's sort of basically dependent origination and the aggregates and how they lead to each other. And Buddha carries on. But with the remainderless fading away and cessation of ignorance comes cessation of formations. With the cessation of formations, there is cessation of consciousness. With the cessation of consciousness, there is cessation of mentality, materiality. With the cessation of mental materiality, there is cessation of the sixfold base. With the cessation of the sixfold base, there is cessation of contact. With the cessation of contact, there is cessation of feeling. With the cessation of feeling, cessation of craving. And with the cessation of craving, the cessation of clinging. With the cessation of clinging, there is the cessation of being. and with the cessation of being, there is the cessation of birth, and with the cessation of birth, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. In this way, Ananda, a bhikkhu can be called skilled in dependent origination. So that's that bit. The next question from Ananda is about, where are we? What is the skill of the possible and the impossible? And Buddha replies, it is impossible that anyone with right view could treat anything as permanent, whereas an ordinary person without right view may treat something as permanent. It is impossible that anybody with right view would treat anything as pleasurable, whereas an ordinary person may treat things as pleasurable. It is impossible that a person possessing right view could treat anything as self, but it is possible that an ordinary person might treat something as self. It is impossible that a person of right view could commit murder of his mother, father, or harm a Tathagata. It is possible that an ordinary person might do this. It is impossible that a person of right view would cause a split in the Sangha, that's the community of monks, and would acknowledge another teacher. But an ordinary person might do these things. It is possible. A bhikkhu understands that it is impossible for two fully enlightened beings to arise at the same time in this world, but that it is possible that a fully enlightened one could arise in this world. So too with a wheel-turning monarch. Now, a wheel-turning monarch is the secular counterpart to a Buddha. A bhikkhu understands it is impossible that a woman could be a fully enlightened one. He understands it is possible for a man to be a fully enlightened one. Similarly for a wheel-turning monarch, similarly for a Saka, which is a type of god, or a Mara, which is an evil god, or a Brahma. A bhikkhu understands it is impossible for a wished-for, desired, agreeable result could be produced from bodily misconduct, or verbal misconduct, or mental misconduct. But he understands it is possible that an unwished-for, undesired, disagreeable effect or result might be produced from bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, mental misconduct. There is such a possibility. And the reverse is also true. Possible there is a good result from good conduct, and impossible for a good result from misconduct. It is impossible for a person indulging in misconduct will appear in a happy destination after death. But the bhikkhu also understands that it is possible that with good conduct a person can appear in a happy destination after death. And then goes on to have the vice versa example. In this way, Ananda, a bhikkhu can be skilled in what is possible and what is impossible. Ananda praised Buddha for the explanation and asked how it should be known. Buddha replied, "It is called the many kinds of elements, or the four cycles, or the mirror of the Dhamma, or the drum of the deathless, and as the supreme victory in battle." This is what the Blessed One said, and the Venerable Ananda was satisfied and delighted with his words. And that's the end of Majjhima Nikaya number 115, the Bhadatukkha Sutta. Thanks for watching.